Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Ravelli, and my presentation today will be over caring for sexual assault victims and their trauma. This presentation will go into detail what sexual assault is considered, statistics on sexual assault, various physical and mental problems associated with the survivors, how sexual assault correlates on a psychological, personal, family, community, and societal factors, and policies on the national and state level that may help survivors. First off, sexual assault refers to sexual contact or behavior that occurs without explicit consent of the victim. Some forms of sexual assault include attempt rape, fondling or unwanted sexual touching, forcing a victim to perform sexual acts such as oral sex or penetrating the perpetrator's body, penetration of the victim's body, which is also known as rape. 80% of sexual assaults are from the perpetrators known by the victim, most including intimate partner violence by the victim's spouse or by a close friend. Perpetrators can force victims to have sexual encounters with them not only by physical force, but by emotional, psychological, or manipulation. Perpetrators can also use threats to force victims to comply, such as threatening to hurt the victim or their family. With statistics showing that sexual assault does not just target one specific demographic, we need to place a focus how we can treat the survivors of sexual assault by policies on a federal and state level. Although women are at a higher risk of being sexually assaulted, men and children also may be sexually assaulted. On average, over 80,000 inmates were sexually assaulted or raped. 60,000 children were victims of sexual abuse. In the general public, over 320,000 Americans 12 or older were sexually assaulted or raped. And in the military, around 9,000 experienced unwanted sexual contact. So, on average, 1 out of 6 women in America has been a victim of an attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. About 3% of the American men have experienced an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. And from 2009 to 2013, Child Protective Service agencies found strong evidence to indicate that 63,000 children a year were victims of sexual abuse. A majority of the children victims are aged 12 to 17, and of the victims under the age of 18, 34% of sexual assault and rape are under the age of 12, while 66% of the victims of sexual assault and rape are aged between 12 and 17. So, on average, 9 out of every 10 victims of rape are female. So, that makes 90% of the victims female, while only 10% of the victims are male. So, here's a breakdown of locations where sexual assault typically occurs. About 48% of the victims were sleeping or performing another activity at home, while 29% were traveling to and from work or school, or traveling to shop or run errands. 12% were working, 7% were attending school, and 5% were doing some other activities. Sexual assault can psychologically and personally affect survivors by post traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, attempted suicide, disassociation, and eating disorders. Sexual assault can affect the individual physically by cuts, scrapes, bruises, broken bones, sexually transmitted diseases, pregnancy, and other gynecological disorders. Sexual assault can affect the family on various aspects. One could be the end of a marriage due to intimate partner violence, which can lead to stress not only on the survivor but the children if there were children involved. Survivors that are adults are still responsible for the well being of their children, which can place a stressor on the survivor for a safe environment to live in and other basic necessities. Also, survivors may feel like they have exhausted their family resources when it comes time to seek help. They may have already gone to their parents' house 4 times to escape assault, but continue to go back to the perpetrator. Survivors of sexual assault can be anyone who works in the community. It could be your 4th grade teacher, the waiter at the restaurant you frequently eat at, your basketball coach, or even a government official. There is such a strong need for community support to help survivors of sexual assault being able to get the psychological and physical help they need, and basic necessities to be able to get out of the unsafe environment. Some societal factors that may contribute to sexual assault is current pop and rap music that may encourage sexual assault and make sexual assault not sound serious. There's even movies out there that have several sexual assault scenes that do not go into detail why sexual assault is bad to be exposed to. There are numerous sexual assault policies that can be found within the United States. Most places of work, schools, and universities have their own sexual assault policies. A few national level policies include Victims of Crime Act, the Debbie Smith Act, and the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative. So, Victims of Crime Act, VOCA, was passed on a federal level in 1984. It works on a national level by helping victims deal with the tangible costs of surviving a crime, such as medical bills, counseling services, funeral and burial costs, and lost wages. Other expenses may include replacement or repair of eyeglasses or contact lenses, dental services and devices, prosthetic devices, crime scene cleanup, and forensic sexual assault exams. VOCA is funded by the Victims Fund, where financial assistance to victims of crime through state-based compensation programs, as well as indirectly through state grants that help finance state victim service organizations. It is also funded by the guilty criminals. The fund is replenished through fines by the convicted criminals, such as forfeited bail bonds and penalties collected from perpetrators as part of their sentences. Also, gifts and donations go towards funding as well, and funding has never come from taxpayers' dollars. At the state level, VOCA pays funds in the state of Indiana for forensic exams, outpatient mental health counseling, and limited medical expenses related to sexual assault, up to $15,000. The Indiana Code defines a violent crime as a felony or Class A misdemeanor that results in bodily injury or death to the victim. People that are eligible for assistance from this fund also include innocent victims of eligible violent crimes, including a motor vehicle crash caused by a drunk driver, a parent, surviving spouse, dependent child, or other legal dependent of innocent victims who has been killed as a result of an eligible violent crime, including a motor vehicle crash caused by a drunk driver, or a person who was injured or killed by trying to prevent a violent crime or giving aid to law enforcement officers. Some requirements in the state of Indiana to be eligible for VOCA is the crime has to be taken place in Indiana. The victim must have incurred a minimum of out-of-pocket loss of $100. The crime must have been reported to the police within 72 hours. The victim or survivors must cooperate in the investigation and prosecution of the crime, and an application for benefits must be filed no later than 180 days after the crime has occurred. Medical expenses must be incurred within 180 days of the crime, but can be extended under certain circumstances.